Hello friends, hello my dear students. These are the actual Jamb biology questions that came out in the Jamb 2026 mock just 2 days ago. If you are writing Jamb 2026, you cannot afford to miss this. So let's jump into the video real quick. Let's go. The first question is, a pair of lungs found in mammals excrete dash. Let's look at the options real quick. Let's go. You have uric acid, you have carbon 2 oxide, you have urine, then you have carbon 4 oxide. First of all, you must understand excretion, because you can see this keyword here that Jamb is using, excretes. So excretion is the removal of metabolic waste products from the body. In mammals, for example, respiration produces mainly CO2 as a waste gas. This CO2 is called carbon 4 oxide. It is different from carbon 2 oxide, which is just CO. You understand? Now, this CO2 is transported by the blood to the lungs and it is now removed via a process called exhalation. That is breathing out, exhalation. Now, so the lungs function mainly not only in breathing. Your lungs function only not for breathing, but also excretion of gaseous waste. Now, the first option here says uric acid. Now, uric acid is a nitrogenous waste. It is mainly produced by birds and reptiles. In mammals, for example, take mammals for example, uric acid is produced in small amounts, but it is mainly excreted by another organ called the kidneys, not the lungs. It is the kidneys that help you to excrete uric acid. So this option A is wrong. Let's go to the next one. The next one says carbon 2 oxide, that is CO. Carbon 2 oxide is mainly a poisonous gas. It is not produced by normal metabolism. Okay, it is actually associated with incomplete combustion. Okay, not biological respiration. Take note of that. So this CO is not the answer. You understand? The next one is urine. That's option C. Urine is a liquid waste produced in the kidneys, okay, and it is stored in the bladder, and it is excreted via the urethra, okay. Now, taking note of the fact that urine is not excreted by the lungs, you understand? So urine cannot be the answer. So you are left with just one option, carbon 4 oxide. So carbon 4 oxide is actually the gas that is excreted by the lungs. So the answer is option D. So this is the answer here. Next one. An example of a sex-linked trait is, then you have option A, albinism, option B, hemophilia, option C, river blindness, option D, dwarfism. Let's take it one by one. Now, what is a sex-linked trait? This is the first thing you need to understand first. A sex-linked trait is a trait that is controlled by genes that are located on the sex chromosomes. Now, what are the sex chromosomes? The sex chromosomes are actually X or Y. X chromosomes or Y chromosomes. Now, let's look at the options one by one. Option A is albinism. Albinism is actually an autosomal recessive trait, meaning that this trait is not controlled by a sex chromosome. It is controlled by non-sex chromosome. Okay, non-sex chromosome. That's the key word there. Non-sex chromosome. So albinism. So albinism is not the answer. The next one is hemophilia. Now, what is hemophilia? Hemophilia is actually a rare genetic bleeding disorder. It's a bleeding disorder, and it is usually inherited. That means it is sex-linked. It can be passed from parent to offspring. And this hemophilia prevents blood from clotting properly due to missing or low clotting factors. You understand? So this hemophilia is actually sex-linked. Okay, it is sex-linked, and it is actually carried on the X chromosome. Actually, there are actually two chromosomes. You have the male chromosome, which is XY. This one is the male chromosome XY, and the female chromosome XX. So hemophilia is actually expressible mainly in males, but females XX are just carriers. They are just carriers. Okay, that leaves us with a correct option, hemophilia. Let's check the next one, river blindness. So river blindness is caused by a parasite. So it is not inherited genetically. It cannot be passed from parent to offspring. So this one is not the answer. Then you have dwarfism. Dwarfism is a form of genetic disorder, but it's not typically sex-linked. It cannot be passed from parent to offspring. So this one too is wrong. So the answer there is option B. Option B is hemophilia. The blood vessel that carries blood to the heart is called, so you have artery, vein, capillary, and aorta. So blood vessels basically are classified based on the direction of flow of blood in them. So you have the ones called veins. Veins carries blood to the heart. They carry blood to the heart. They move blood towards the heart. Okay, and these veins actually carry what is called deoxygenated blood. That is blood that does not contain any oxygen. But there's an exception. There's a vein that carries oxygenated blood. That vein is called the pulmonary vein. Take note of that. Then you have the ones called artery. Arteries actually carry blood away from the heart. So they carry blood away from the heart. So this question says carries blood to the heart. So arteries cannot be the answer. The next option there is capillary. What is capillary? Capillary are actually tiny vessels where exchange of gases and nutrients takes place. Okay, so if you have maybe an artery carrying blood or carrying oxygenated blood to a particular organ, let me say the kidney, that artery will end up as capillaries, which are tiny vessels where nutrients and gases can be exchanged through the cells. The last one is aorta. Aorta is a specific artery, one of the largest artery. Okay, it's a specific artery. It's not a general blood vessel type. So aorta is an example of an artery. You understand? So the answer to this question is blood vessel that carries blood to the heart is called vein. So option B is the answer, vein. Vein is the answer. These ones are wrong. Let's go to number 4. Number 4 says the largest artery in the body is the dash. Let's go to the first one, pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery, this one carries blood to the lungs. It carries blood to the lungs, but it is tiny, but not too tiny. It is not actually the biggest. You also have renal artery. You have renal artery and you have aorta. Renal artery supplies the kidney. It carries blood to the kidney. Then you have carotid artery. This one supplies blood to your head. Supplies blood to your head. Renal artery supplies blood to your kidney. Pulmonary artery carries blood to your lungs. Okay, so that is just one option there, which is aorta. Aorta is actually the largest artery. It's the largest artery in the body. And you know the function of arteries. Arteries actually carry blood away from the heart. So this aorta, it is the main artery leaving the left ventricle of the heart. It moves out from the left ventricle of the heart and it distributes what is called oxygenated blood. That is blood that contains oxygen, okay, carrying nutrients to the entire body. And this aorta also has a thick muscular wall to withstand high pressure. You understand? So the answer to this question is aorta. Next one says, what does the earthworm excrete? What does the earthworm excrete? This is under excretion. Excretion. Take note of that. Excretion. So you have urea, ammonia, uric acid, carbon dioxide. So let's look at the first one. So let's look at it this way. What do earthworms use for excretion? Earthworms actually use what is called nephridia for excretion. And this nephridia produces what? The main product there is urea. Is urea. And you know urea is less toxic than what is called ammonia. Urea is less toxic than ammonia. And basically, organisms that live in moist environment actually excrete urea. They excrete urea. Okay. Now let's look at the options. Ammonia is highly toxic and it requires lots of water. So it is typical of organisms living in water. The ones that are actually suspended in water. Note that moist is not the same thing as organisms living in water. When I say moist, I mean organisms living in wet or marsh environment, not actually water itself. Then you also have uric acid. Uric acid is a water conserving waste. And uric acid majorly excreted by birds and reptiles like lizards and so on like that. Then you have CO2. CO2 is a respiratory waste product, but it is not mainly nitrogenous. Okay, now let's look at the answer. The correct answer to this question is urea. Urea, that is option A. The major excretory product in earthworms is urea, and their own excretory organ or structure is what is called nephridia. Nephridia. Take note of that. Next one is the excretory structure in protozoa is. Now, protozoas are actually single-celled organisms. They have a single cell. An example of that will be something like amoeba or amoeba. Some people normally call it. Now, let's look at the options real quick. Nephridium is for earthworm, just like what you said in number 5. Nephridium or nephridia. Nephridia is the plural form. Nephridium is the singular form. So nephridia is for, this one is for earthworms. Okay, for earthworms. The next one is flame cell. Flame cell is for flatworms. This is the excretory structure in flatworms. Flatworms. Then you have contractile vacuole. This is actually the excretory structure in protozoans. Protozoans. This is the excretory structure in protozoans or protozoa. While Martigan tubule It excretes structure in insects. So the answer is already obvious. The answer is option C, which is contractile vacuole. Contractile vacuole. Number 7 says the excretory system in insects. Okay, very done it here. This one is for mammals. Contractile vacuole for protozoans. Malpighian tubule for insects. Nephridia for earthworm. So this is not the answer. The answer is option B, Malpighian tubules. Let's go. Next one. A bryophyte. For the next one, a bryophyte with ribbon-like structure is dash. So you have moss, fern, marchantia, and spirogyra. Now let's take them one by one. Moss. So moss is actually the singular form. So the plural form is mosses. So mosses are actually bryophyte. It belongs to the Bryophyta family. But their structures are actually leafy. Their structures are leafy and not ribbon-like. Ribbon-like. The keyword Jamb is asking for here is this ribbon-like structure. Which of these guys have the ribbon-like structure? So these mosses, they actually have small leaf-like structure that look exactly like a leaf. You understand? You know what a leaf looks like. So they have small leaf-like structures growing on the stems. Let's look at the option B. Option B is fern. So fern, the plural form is actually ferns. So ferns are actually vascular plants. That means these plants contain what is called xylem and phloem for moving water and food throughout the body of the plant. So they don't belong to the class of bryophytes. Okay. Now they have fronds. This one actually have fronds. You see the picture on the screen right now. They have what is called fronds. But these fronds are not ribbon-like. They don't look like ribbons. The next one is spirogyra. Spirogyra is actually the next one is marchantia. So marchantia is a type of liverwort, and liverwort belongs to the class of what is called bryophytes, Bryophyta family. This marchantia actually has the ribbon-like structure Jamb is asking of here. So they have the ribbon-like structure known as thallus, which is flat and leafy. Now, this thallus grows horizontally, as you can see in the picture. That is why it looks like a ribbon. Okay, last option there is spirogyra. So spirogyra is actually an algae, or you can say alga. That's the singular form. It is not a bryophyte. So it's actually filamentous. It's a filamentous algae because it forms thread-like structures, not ribbon-like structures. So this one is not the answer. Moss is not the answer. Fern is not the answer. The correct answer there is marchantia. Okay, that's option C. Take note of that. The next one is snail belongs to which group? Snail belongs to which group? So you have the option A, which is arthropoda. Option B, you have mollusca, annelida, and nematoda. Let's look at the options one by one. So arthropoda or arthropods, actually the insects family. You have insects, spiders, crustaceans under this arthropoda family. So they are segmented animals. That means their body is in some form of segments. And they have an exoskeleton. They have exoskeleton, they have jointed limbs, and they have a more complex body. Now, the next one is mollusca. So mollusca is the snail family. So it is characterized by soft bodies. They have soft bodies, often enclosed in what is called calcareous shells. That's where their soft bodies are enclosed in. So mollusks, example of animals that also belong to this mollusca family. You have things like snails, clams, oysters, octopuses, and squids. So they are defined by having a small muscular foot, and they have what is called a mantle. You understand, as you can see in the diagram in front of you. Then the next one here is annelida. Annelida is the worm family, segmented worm family like earthworms and leeches. So they don't have a shell or a soft body structure like snails. Snails do not belong to the annelida family. The next one is nematoda. Nematoda is roundworm family. So they have a cylindrical body, unlike the soft bodies that snails have. So the correct answer to that question is mollusca. Snails belong to the mollusca family. So option B is the answer. Take note of that. If you are still watching up to this point, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for supporting EduMath Hub. Let's go to the next question. Next question says, which of the following is a non-vascular plant? This is the keyword there, a non-vascular plant. Non-vascular plant. So the option you have Diopteris, Marchantia, rice, and maize. Now let's look at the options one by one. So this Diopteris is actually a fern. It belongs to the fern family. It's a fern. So, and it is a vascular plant. That means it contains xylem and phloem. Xylem is to transport water. Why phlegm is to carry food. Okay, so these are vascular plants because they have vessels for transporting water and nutrients. The next one is Machantia. So Machantia is a bryophyte, and you know generally bryophytes are non-vascular plants. Bryophytes are generally non-vascular. That means they lack xylem and phloem. They don't have specialized vascular tissues for transporting water and nutrients. So instead, they rely on what is called diffusion process to transfer their nutrients. They rely on diffusion process. Take note of that. So this might be the answer. So this one is not the answer, but this might be the answer. Let's look at rice now. So rice is a monocot. It's a monocot. So a monocot actually is a vascular plant with specialized tissues for water and nutrients. So rice is actually vascular. So this is not the answer. Then if rice is vascular, same thing with maize. So no need to even bother yourself about this maize. Maize is a vascular plant because it contains xylem and phloem to carry out transport. So the correct answer to that question is Machantia. Machantia is a bryophyte and they are generally non-vascular. Next one, the universal recipient blood group is dash. You have option A, option B, B, option C, AB, and option D, O. Let's look at them one by one. So A, people with A, this A here, this blood group, people with blood group A, they have what is called antibody B. They have anti-B antibodies. They have anti-B antibodies in their plasma. So that means they can only receive A or O blood groups. They can only receive A or O blood types. That's what they can receive. Then for B, people with blood group B, they have anti-A antibodies. These ones, they have anti-A antibodies. Let me write it here. People with blood group B, they have anti-A antibodies. So that means they can only receive people with B or O blood. They can only receive from B or O blood. Next one, we have AB. Now, AB is a very special blood group. AB is called the universal recipient blood group. This is because individuals with this particular blood, they have both A and they have B antigens on the surface of their red blood cells. So they don't have any antibodies against A or B. Okay, so that means they can receive blood. They can receive blood from any blood group, A, B, O blood group, maybe A, B, A, B. They can receive blood from anybody without triggering an immune response. So AB is actually called the universal recipient group, while O is called the universal donor. You understand? So people with blood group O, for example, they are actually universal donors. They can give, while AB can receive from anybody. O can give to anybody, while AB can receive from anybody. AB is universal recipient. O is universal donor. So people with blood group O, they have both anti-A and anti-B antibodies in their plasma. So that means that they can only receive blood from group O. So these people with blood group O can only receive from O. O can only give to O. But AB can receive from anybody. But this O here can give to any other person. But if anybody wants to give to O, it must come from O. Only O can give to O. But O can give to anyone here. While AB can receive from all of them. Hope you have seen the difference. So the universal recipient blood group is option C. That is AB. AB is the correct answer there. Let's go. Next one. If a parent have 3 boys, the probability that the 4th child will be a girl is, you have A, B, C, D. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. So let's look at the analysis. So let's look at the first one. The first one says 1/4. And this 1/4, don't forget this stuff is under probability. You can't be 100% sure. You can't be 100% sure about the sex of a child. You are told that the parents already have 3 boys. The probability that the 4th child will be a girl is probability. Probability can be like 0 or 1. If it's 0, that means it can't happen. If it's 1, that means it definitely happen. So for probability of 1/4, it means that this will be correct if we're dealing with a more complex genetic scenario. But the gender of a child, is independent of the previous birth. The next child is the sex of that child is independent of the sex of the previous children. So this one is wrong. Next one is half. Let's look at the half now. For the half, probability of the 4th child being a girl is also independent of the previous children. But no, probability is a 50-50 thing. Each child, maybe male or female, has a 50% chance of being a boy or a girl. the sex of a child is 50-50, assuming there are no genetic anomalies, as in no genetic disorder. Therefore, the probability of having a girl is half. Probability of having a boy is also half. So this is a 50-50 thing. Okay, 50%, that is half. Regardless of whether the previous child is a boy or a girl, it does not matter. So this one might be correct. This one actually follows the laws of probability. Then next one says 3/4. The same thing. The birth of a child is independent of the previous birth, so you cannot determine that. So this one is wrong. This one too is wrong. Then probability of 1. That means it is certain. This will imply that the fourth child must be a girl. That means you are saying the fourth child must be a girl, but this is not actually correct, because based on laws of probability, you cannot 100% determine the sex of a particular child. So you cannot determine the sex of a child 100%, unless if after the process of the fertilization has taken place, you can use some medical means to detect the sex of the child. That is possible through medical means. But to say that the next child will be a girl or next child will be a boy after intercourse is not certain. The answer to that question is half, 50-50, boy or girl. Next one is, the answer is option B, that is half. Take note of that. Next one. Parents with genotype AS cross AS may produce children with, you have AA only, AS only, SS only, and AA, AS, SS. Let's break it down for you. This is under heredity. So let's cross them first. AS cross AS. So the first thing you're going to get is this 2. That will be AA. You have this 2. That will be AS. This one too, AS. The last one, SS. So option A says AA only. All of them here are not AA only. There's only one AA here. That is 1 out of 4. So option A is wrong. So option B says AS only. So it cannot be AS only, because if you check here, only these 2 are AS. AS, but you also have AA and SS. So not all the children will inherit the S allele, because you have AA here. This one does not have the S allele. Does not have it. So this one is actually AA. Does not have the S at all. So this one is wrong. All of them are not AS. Then you have SS only. SS only means that all of them are SS. That is SS, 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 SS. And this is not possible. This one is only possible if the 2 parents are SS, as in that you have SS cross SS, and here it's possible. All of them will be SS. But in this case, it's not actually possible. So this one is wrong too. So the last option is AA, AS, SS. This one is actually possible. So this would definitely be the answer, since A, B, C are wrong. So let's look at why this one is correct. So you can see from the breakdown here, you have AA. You also have AS twice. Then you have SS. So this one is covered. This guy is covered. This guy is covered. And this guy is covered. So 4 of them are available here. So the genotype AS, this genotype AS here, it means that one parent has one normal allele, that's A, and one sickle cell allele, that's SS. So when the 2 of them meet, or when they cross, their children may inherit any combination of these alleles. So you can have AA, which is normal, and AS, which is a carrier. AS is a carrier. This one is carrier, it's carrying the sickle cell gene. This A here is dominant. This one is recessive. So this person is a carrier. So AA is normal, AS is a carrier, and SS is sickle cell. So the ratio, if you break down the ratio here will be, since you have AA, AS, SS, the ratio will be like this. AA is how many there? That is 1. Abi, AS how many? That is 2. Then SS is 1. So the ratio is 1 to 2 to 1. So the correct answer to that question is option D. I hope you understand. Let's go. This is the answer here. Next one, an example of a fungal disease is, then you have malaria, ringworm, cholera, tuberculosis. So let's check them one by one. So what is malaria? Malaria is caused by a parasite called Plasmodium, and it is transmitted by the female Anopheles mosquito. So it is not fungal related. It's not a fungal infection. It's not fungal related. Next one is actually ringworm. So ringworm is a fungal infection actually, and it's caused by what is called a dermatophytes, a type of fungus that infects the skin, hair, and the nails. And it's characterized by circular, this is why they call it this ringworm, because it is characterized by circular ring-like lesions on the skin. That's what you see on the person's skin, anyone that has ringworm. That's one of the symptoms. So it is also contagious, you understand? So it can be transferred or communicated from one person to another, and it is spread by direct contact or contaminated object. Once you just touch the person, or you touch something the person has used, you contact this ringworm. So this one might be the answer. Then you have Cholera.
So cholera is caused by a bacteria, actually called Fibro-cholerae. So it is not a fungal infection. This one is not the answer. Then next one is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is caused by a bacteria. So that bacteria is called Mycobacterium tuberculosis. So it is not a fungus too. It's not a fungal infection. This one is wrong. So the correct answer to that question is ringworm. So ringworm is the answer. Okay, I hope you understand. Let's go to the next section. Number 16 says, who postulated the theory of acquired traits? Okay, so you have the options here. You have Mendel, Darwin, Lamarck, and Pasteur. So let's look at the options one by one. Now, Mendel. So this Mendel guy here is known for his laws of inheritance and his works on genetics. This guy is actually called the father of genetics. He's the father of genetics. That is Gregor Mendel. His full name is what is shown on your screen right now. So he's the father of genetics. So he used what is called pea plants to formulate his theories on the laws of inheritance. So his theories actually focus on genetic inheritance. Nothing concerning this guy with acquired traits. The next guy is Darwin. So Darwin, his full name is shown on your screen right now. So Darwin proposed the theory of natural selection. This guy is the father of natural selection. Father of natural selection. Which states that, what does this law state? It states that organisms with advantageous traits survive and reproduce. Okay, that's just the basics of the natural selection theory. So this Darwin guy was influential in the field of evolution. Sometimes they call him the father of evolution. He didn't postulate anything on acquired traits. Let's look at the next guy called Lamarck. So his full name, Lamarck, is shown on your screen right now. This Lamarck guy is famous for his theory of what is called acquired traits. So this guy, he suggested that organisms could pass on traits that were acquired during their lifetime. That's the concept behind acquired traits. Organisms could pass on traits that were acquired in their lifetimes. For example, now, giraffe have long necks, Abi. So because their ancestors stretched their necks to reach higher leaves, as in during feeding, these traits will be passed from the parent to the offspring. This is not the answer. This is not the answer. This is the answer here. So the answer is option C, Lamarck. Now, let's look at the last one, Pasteur. This Pasteur guy is known for his work on germ theory. He talked on germ theory and vaccination. That was his field. He did not propose anything on acquired traits. So his full name is shown on your screen right now. Now, the next one is number 16. Secondary growth in older dicot roots occurs in the, let's look at them one by one. So you have option A, cortex, option B, cambium, option C, epidermis, option D, phloem. Now, take note of something. This cortex here is the, anytime you hear cortex in biology, it always means the outer layer of something. So cortex is the outer layer of the stem or root. Okay, it is involved in storage and support, not in secondary growth. It just helps the plant to support itself. That is what cortex is for. Next one is cambium. Cambium is a layer of undifferentiated cells found between the xylem and the phloem in plants. So this cambium, it is found between xylem and phloem in plants. And in dicot plants, it's actually responsible for the secondary growth, because secondary growth involves the cambium, which produces new cells that increase the gait or thickness of the plant. So when you see the word gait, it means the thickness of the plant. So the cambium divides to form what is called secondary xylem or wood and secondary phloem, and this will contribute to the secondary growth of the plant. So the answer could be cambium. Let's look at the next one. Epidermis. Epidermis is the outermost layer of cells in plants, so it serves as a protection layer. It is not responsible for secondary growth. While phloem is just a vessel responsible for transporting food and nutrients. It has nothing to do with secondary growth, like we said earlier. So let's cancel these two guys. Cancel this one. Cancel this one. Cancel this one. Let's mark this one. So the answer is cambium. Cambium is responsible for secondary growth in older dicot roots. Then let's look at the next one. An example of secondary succession is, now first of all, you need to understand the basics of this secondary succession. This is the keyword here. So secondary succession, actually, it occurs in an area or a region where life has previously existed. As in that particular area, life was there before, but that life was disturbed, as maybe something happened and the life there was cut short, like maybe through fire, deforestation, and so on like that. Okay, but the soil is still intact. You understand? The soil is still intact. So if you look at the first one. The first one says colonization of bare rock. This one here is an example of what is called primary succession, where life begins on newly formed rocks, like maybe something like after a volcanic eruption has taken place. So in this case here, the soil must form from scratch. So there was no soil in this case. The soil must begin to form from the beginning. In this secondary succession, the soil is already there. That's the difference between the two. Next one is the next one is growth after bush burning. So this growth after bush burning, this option B here, is a good example of what is secondary succession, because the soil, you can see growth after bush burning. That means the life there was actually destroyed, but the soil still remained. You understand? The soil remains after the fire, bush burning, after the fire, and plant life starts to regenerate again from the soil that was not destroyed. So this one could be the answer. Let's look at the next one. Formation of new island. Now, formation of new island is an example of primary succession, because formation of new, you can see. So the island starts from bare rock, and it requires soil formation before life can begin. You understand? So this one, the soil was not even there at all. Next one is volcanic eruption. This one is similar to option C, that is island formation, where a volcanic eruption creates bare rock, then soil will have to be formed. So this one is primary succession. So correct answer is option B. Next one, the apex predator in an aquatic habitat is, apex means the top predator in an aquatic habitat is. So let's look at the first one. You have zooplankton. Zooplankton are just small floating organisms eaten by larger fish. So these ones cannot be the apex predator, because the other animals feed on them. So they actually preys. You call them preys. Predators feed on them. You understand? Next one is small fish. So small fish are also preys. This one too, they also preys for larger predators. So this one cannot be the answer. Then you have option C, shark. So shark is an apex predator. This shark here is an apex predator because it's at the top of the food chain, and it has no natural predators except maybe man or human beings that kill the sharks. So this shark has no natural predator. So in aquatic ecosystem or aquatic setting, sharks are considered apex predators because they hunt and eat a variety of animals. They eat other animals like seals, fish, and so on like that. Then the next one is algae. Algae are producers in the food chain, so they cannot be apex predators because they're actually the bottom. They are the bottom part of the food chain, so they produce energy for other organisms, but they are not predators. So this one is not the answer. The answer is shark. The next one, the vector of cholera is. So let's look at the option one by one. So you have housefly, mosquito, cockroach, fly. Now the first one here is housefly. So housefly is actually a vector. It carries germs and diseases. So the vector of cholera is housefly. It can carry bacteria. It carries the bacteria called Fibro cholerae. This is what causes cholera. So it carries this bacteria on its body or on its legs after coming into contact with contaminated food, feces, or water. So this might be the answer. The next one is mosquito. Mosquito is a vector for malaria, not cholera. Cockroach. Cockroach are known to spread some diseases, but they are not primary vector for cholera. They don't spread cholera, but they spread other diseases. The next one is fly. Fly is a vector for what is called sleeping sickness, not cholera. Okay, so correct answer to that question is housefly. That's option A. Number 20 goes like this. Which zone of a water body experiences tides? The key word here is tides. So this is under ecology. So let's look at each option. So the first one is the benthic zone. So benthic zone is the bottom of the water body where organisms live on or near the substrate. It is not affected by tides. Next one is abyssal zone. So abyss actually means deep. So abyssal zone is the deepest part of the ocean. Okay, far below the intertidal zone. So this zone here, it is deep, deep, deep down in the ocean. So tides do not reach this part. Tides do not reach this part. Option C is littoral zone. So littoral zone is the zone that is close to the shore. Okay, it refers to actually the shallow areas of lakes and ocean, the part where you can stand. Okay, so this zone does not experience much tidal movement. Okay, but it experiences little tidal movement. The last one is intertidal zone. So intertidal zone is the area between the high and low tide marks. This is the area that experiences much tides. So it experiences the rise and fall of the tides. So the correct answer is intertidal zone. The next one is, so if you are still watching this, I really thank you and I appreciate you for supporting EduMath Hub. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.